Hello everyone. Yesterday I made a community post on my YouTube page talking about the fact that I got plugged on and it got a bunch of reactions. It's obviously something that people care deeply about, and rightly so. It is an important issue that we should talk about. But I also saw a bunch of comments from people who didn't know what plugging refers to and didn't understand what is going on with cheating in Tekken, and I realized that the Tekken world is filled with new players right now, which is amazing, but they don't have the context of what happened in Tekken 7 and what we're coming into Tekken 8 with when it comes to cheating. So I want to break this down in this video and then tell you what you can do to hopefully help improve the situation. So with Tekken 7, the game had a constant online player base for its entire lifespan, which was great, but that was despite the fact that there were issues with cheating in it, and very little was done by Namco to improve the situation. Now, the biggest problem with Tekken 7 was that your rank data was stored locally on your system in that game, so on your computer or console, meaning that you could go into your game files and manipulate that data. So the typical way people did that was when they won online, they did nothing, but when they lost or got demoted, they went into their save files and they went back to a previous save, basically nullifying the loss. And that was referred to as save scumming, is sort of the term that the community came up with to refer to that, but that was one common way of cheating. Now, I can tell you for a fact that that won't work in Tekken 8 because the rank data is not local anymore. I know that because I bought a new computer basically to play and stream this game, but when I played it for a couple of days, I had some huge issues with Windows and I had to do a factory reset on the computer, losing all of my files. But when I got the computer up and running again and reinstalled Tekken, I still had the same rank as before. So luckily, the rank data is now being stored somewhere else on a server that Namco has control over. And that's a very, very good thing. So that solves one of the biggest issues with Tekken 7. But there are some other ways in which people cheat in Tekken, and some of them definitely persist in this new version of the game, Tekken 8. So let's talk about a couple of them. One thing that you can do if you cheat in Tekken is you can use something called macros, and you can run scripts. So a macro is if you have a difficult input you have to do something really powerful in this game, like Korean backdash cancel or do an electric wind god fist. And this is a type of cheating that is typical for Mishima players. And I'm not trying to be mean to you again, Mishima boys. This is genuinely something that is typical of Mishima playing cheaters. But obviously, you know, all kinds of people and all kinds of, you know, characters. So what it does is you take this difficult input and you turn it into a single button press, basically, and you get it perfect every single time, right? So it completely breaks the competitive aspect of the game. It completely bypasses, you know, skill checks, and it, you know, it's just a very horrible and dark way of cheating. And you can also run scripts, which is, well, you can have your character react automatically to things that the opponent is doing. So for example, your character will automatically parry lows, automatically duck highs, automatically optimally block punish something when you block. And the thing with those scripts is people would genuinely like play normally and then turn them on mid-match, so that you wouldn't be able to tell whether or not they were cheating, and then it would look like at the end they just did a perfect low parry at the right time or just ducked a high at the perfect time and managed to clutch you out at the end. So it's a very devious way of doing it, you know. Sometimes it was obvious. There are videos on my channel of me running into people who are obviously doing it, you know. When it comes to macros and scripts, we actually have known Tekken streamers who have been cheating in this way to an audience online for many, many years and are known to the community at large for being these pathetic, you know, sad excuses for players who cheat constantly. And Namco have done nothing to punish them in the past, which is, I mean, strange and fascinating to me how they've been so passive about it when there are like hundreds of hours of footage of these people obviously cheating, right? Well, I think because cheating became such a big issue with 7, Namco have worried about it more going into Tekken 8, and hopefully they now have structures in place to help you report these people, and Namco are probably going to be able to get them banned. At least I hope so. Because another issue with the save data being local in Tekken 7 was that when Namco tried to ban somebody, they could just go into their game files and remove the ban, So if they knew how to manipulate the game files already, it was like impossible to ban them, right? So Namco were completely toothless, and it was kind of pathetic, and then they just tried to kind of sidestep the issue, and it made me frustrated. I wanted them to talk about it. Like, we have this issue with cheaters. Namco are saying nothing about it. They're not answering questions about it, but they are releasing new paid DLC. They are pushing these offline events, Look at the Cup Noodle ad, buy more Red Bull, check out this new DLC character that you can buy. And if you try and address this massive issue of cheating in the game, they just don't talk about it, right? Namco are much more concerned with PR than anything else these days, but if enough of us talk about this issue and we make it bad PR for Namco and this new game that they are still trying to sell to as many people as possible, if we attack them right in the wallet, then pressure is put on them to do something. And like I said, they would be incompetent to an extent that is indescribable if they hadn't prepared for this sort of thing this time around. They've had a decade to prepare, and I can't imagine that they haven't. Let's talk about another way in which people cheat. So we're finally getting to this thing called plugging, right? So plugging is simply you're playing in a match, and before you lose the match, you disconnect your internet or you just turn the game off. This is what has been happening to people more online. It's a very common way of cheating. I think it's because people are very passionate about this game, and they get so frustrated when they are losing that they lose control and they just Alt F4 and turn the game off, or pull the internet cable, and they make excuses and they shout and they go, this game is terrible or whatever. And it's sort of still obviously unacceptable, but more understandable, because that's just lack of character and being, a person with weak constitution, whereas manipulating game files and running scripts is just like malicious intent, and actually going in with the intention of ruining the game for other people. But it is still a big issue. Now, with plugging, what happened in the past was if you disconnected from a match before it had ended, you got disconnect %. So if you match up against somebody right now in matchmaking, it says disconnect rate, hopefully 0%, and you can choose whether or not you want to play against that person. If it says like disconnect rate 6%, then you know that this person has, a couple of times recently disconnected the game, and chances are if I start beating them, they will just leave, right? And then you shouldn't accept a match against that person. It's a very soft way of punishing those people, but you can't do it too hard, because obviously there are ways in which you could get disconnected in the middle of a match and it not being your fault. For most of my life playing Tekken, I lived in Japan with shitty Japanese internet that would sometimes just randomly disappear for a couple of seconds and then come back, and I would get disconnected every night at 2 a.m. If I was playing late at night, it would just disappear, and if I forgot, I would get disconnect %. But then if you play a bunch of matches and don't disconnect at all, it goes down and eventually disappears, which is a very good thing. Now, people have been saying that a solution to this is that when somebody disconnects in the middle of a match, the person who didn't do it should just get a win, and the person who did do it should just get a loss. And I see that argument. It's a solution. However, we have issues with people trying to boost themselves to higher ranks right now, and I don't know if that would enable a new method of them for doing that, because you could disconnect or have somebody help you disconnect and just boost yourself up the ranks that way. I don't know if that would be an issue if you put that sort of system in place, but what you could do is definitely the person who disconnects gets an automatic loss. That I think is absolutely fine. And the amount of points that gets deducted should probably increase to where it's like a single loss in the beginning, then like a bunch of losses, and eventually you go back to bottom rank, right? But even though the other player, the honest player, isn't getting a win, their time is still being wasted. But I don't know if it's a healthy thing for the game to give them points for the match not finishing. I don't know. It's a suggestion, right? So yesterday I got plugged on a couple of times during a ranked session. This guy right here, who has a funny name, Osama bin Laden, is a plugger and a cheater. So be aware if you see this person online, try to not play against him. It is obviously possible that this person simply had a very unfortunate disconnection at the very last moment of the very last round when he was losing. The reason I'm 99.9% sure that that isn't the case is this person didn't seem very good at the game to me, spamming the exact same move over and over, a very exploited move right now, which is Azucena's running 3-2. Did nothing but that for multiple rounds that I lost, or for 2 rounds that I lost. And then when I figured him out and realized that if I just got in on him, he wasn't actually very good at defending in this game because, you know, he's a cheater who doesn't belong at this rank. I started winning instead, and at the final round when I put him on the wall and was about to end it, he just disappeared. He's actually promoted again since then. He was Kishin yesterday and he's Bushin now. So what you can do if you get plugged on in this game is, if the match isn't finished, then it doesn't end up in your replay data. So you can't go back and look at it and go, look, Namco right here, this is where he plugged. Unfortunately, that still doesn't happen. But you can go to the community tab of your main menu right here, down here, and you can go to the one that says players you've played with. And if somebody plugs on you in a match, while you don't get the replay of the match because it didn't finish, they still end up on this list. So you can go down the list and you can find the person who plugged on you, or who used some sort of hack or obviously cheated. So in this case, bin Laden right here. Press the button and then go to report. There's an option here that says block. And I've seen people who, I'm almost sorry for them, but some people believe that this actually blocks the opponent from matching up against you again. And I'm pretty sure that's just not how it works, because people would just abuse an option like that. Everybody would block every Hwoarang player so that they never have to play against Hwoarangs again. And I completely understand that sentiment, because who wants to play against Hwoarangs, right? It's horrible. But that's not the intended structure of the game from Namco's perspective, and I just don't think they would put something like that in the game. I think this is simply a block from social functions, so they can't like add you to a friend list or send you a message if you block them in this way. But if you go to report right here, you can go to report regarding a player and then to other, and then you can write what happened right here. So I usually just put this person is a cheater, a plugger, a disconnector, and then roughly the time when it happened. I've only reported like 2 or 3 people so far. I've only been plugged on like a total of 5 or 6 times so far. So I want you to understand that even though we're talking about this and it is a big issue right now, Tekken Online is still kind of amazing compared to 7. There are basically no load times. The netcode is good. We have crossplay. Most of the matches are against honest players and are really fun. I mean, honest players. Everybody's like playing a gimmicky, super aggressive character and spamming random offense and heat and whatever. But, you know, we're all doing that. That's just the way this game is played right now. So, like, don't be thinking that because this is an issue, this game is now unplayable online. A majority of matches are still fine, and a majority of players are still honest. But what you need to realize is if we could solve this issue in a big way compared to 7, the entire value and structure of ranked mode would just change, because cheaters are infusing the system with fake points that don't exist. I mean, millions and millions of them. They are ruining matches for people. They are wasting people's time. And so the value of individual ranks and the entire structure and distribution of the ranked system becomes strange because of this. If we didn't have cheaters, then rank could actually be a pretty accurate indication of how talented you are as a player or how far you've come through effort, which would be a great thing, right? It would matter in a big way. And I think for me, the biggest one would be if, you know, life's hard, you probably have like a tough job, you come home, you want to play this video game, you're trying to improve in it. It's frustrating enough as it is, and then people are just wasting your time, you know, cheating. You know, you get locked in and they waste your time. You're about to get your first ever promo to a new level and they leave and it wastes your time. And it's just like, you know, something that I don't think you should be allowed to go into the private life of another person and do to them. I think it's very, very low, right? So what's been happening with Namco, what they have been saying so far, there's been one tweet of them saying, we are currently looking at people on the top of the leaderboards, investigating their matches and seeing if they are legit, because people have already used cheating to get to the very top of the leaderboards. Very few people are capable of doing that sort of thing already. I know Anakin has done it. Anakin is one of the best Tekken players who has ever lived, and he's also playing a new extremely powerful character in Reina, right? So if anybody can do it, it would be someone like him. But there are a bunch of people with max rank, and I mean a majority of them, pretty much every single one except for these like known pros, are probably cheaters, right? And so Namco are going into matches and looking at their matches, and they're gonna warn or ban or punish these people somehow. My argument would be that that's not good enough, because the problems are happening at every level in the ranking system, and you know, the vast majority of people are not at max rank yet. The vast majority of players will never be at max rank, right? So I want to know, if we are sending these reports right now, are you looking at them? And will you warn, and will you ban, will you deduct points, and will you do something, right? Because Namco have said in the past in Tekken 7, you better not be doing bad stuff because we're going to ban you. And then they've done absolutely nothing because they've been powerless or incompetent or lazy or too busy, you know, coming up with some sort of new feature that they want to sell you for $4 to actually do something. I want you to keep this in mind if you are new to this franchise. While the community is amazing and the game is amazing, Namco are known to be liars, and they're known to talk down to and patronize their community. That happens, right? So I think pressure needs to be put on them to actually do something. Hot air isn't good enough. It's weird that the game director, you know, is tweeting on his private Twitter about what's happening with the game. We want like official statements, what's going on, what structure is in place to deal with this, right? It is something that I think we should be able to demand. Now, when people or when developers ban in games like this, competitive games online, they usually do it in what's called ban waves, and that's a very good thing. The reason you do a ban wave and not just look at an individual person and then ban them is, if people start getting banned for stuff, then other cheaters can then look at that and adapt. They can understand how they are being detected, and they can find new ways of getting around it. But if you just gather up all this information about all the people who have been cheating, and then you roll out a massive wave and get rid of them at the same time, it takes them a lot of time to regroup, to adapt, and many of them hopefully don't even come back and try and do it again. So what I am hoping right now is that we are waiting for a first major ban wave from Namco, and when that happens, they should tell us, this is what we've done for these reasons, and it will be happening again to people who repeat this sort of behavior. And if that happens, great, this game will be in a fantastic spot. But, you know, I am not giving them the benefit of the doubt anymore. And that's not only because I'm a cynic, it's because we've been burned in the past. Either way, it is a super fun community, and you're going to have a majority of your matches be against honest people who are just trying their hardest, same as you. I mean, some of them will be playing Devil Jin, and that's dishonest in its own way right now, but, you know, it's at least within the confines of what's allowed in the game, and we all have opinions about each other's play styles, each other's characters. But when it comes to cheaters, I think all of us who don't do that are always going to be on the same side, and we should all do our best. So keep reporting people who plug on you, and keep putting pressure on Namco, and keep demanding that they do something about this, because it is their responsibility entirely. And if we let them get away with doing nothing, I think they will. So we shouldn't. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys again very soon.